What are they?
We're standing in someone's graveyard, I reckon.
When we first started talking about the film, we talked about landscape initially. That sprang out off the page on the script, and that was our first point of reference. And we talked about figures in the landscape, our characters in that landscape, and then portraiture.
Who are those men?
They're from the museum.
Ye gods! Mrs. Pretty, I think you'd better come and see.
The LF, it was my first thought when this film came up. I'd looked at the Alexa 65 for a project a few years ago. We didn't end up using it for that project, but in the testing of it, I remember looking at that format and the 65 lenses and really enjoying certainly the portrait, the portrait lenses in that format. And I sort of wanted to, although I couldn't use it on that film, I'd sort of been looking forward to a chance of using something similar to it, if not that. The LF, as soon as we started testing it and showing Simon, what the lenses could do, he was very excited about it, as was I, and it just became a no-brainer, really. We wanted to move ahead with that.
It occurs to me that you might unearth human remains.
Yeah, that's possible.
We had a collection of DNA lenses. They were obviously developed, in conjunction with the LF camera, so it seemed a natural first stop to look at. They just had that slight period feel to them, which I think also fitted our story very well. We were lucky to be able to take it out into the field, literally into the field, and do some testing with it. I knew that the wide lenses would be particularly popular on our film. I think it was the 29 that became the workhorse lens. And the 21 was used a lot, actually, probably more than one would normally, to keep our characters in the landscape and not to lose the landscape when we went into a mid-shot or even a close-up. We would use the 21 as moving into the characters.
That speaks, doesn't it? The past.
Three in that kind of area, the 20s, maybe early 30s, were detuned out of the whole range, and quite incrementally. And it was just to enhance that look that they all pretty much already had. With our characters in the landscape, I wanted to be able to have the chance of bringing your focus in onto that character a little bit more.
She's got Reed Moyer in her ear.
The approach to the camera work, we wanted to keep the camera very much alive and responding to the actors and their movements around. We had a very big stage in which to play on, which was our field when we were exterior. We wanted to give our characters full rein to go where they wanted and not dictate too much. So the camera had to be responsive and to be amongst it. We had invariably quite wide lenses on, so I was able to keep 2 or 3 characters in the frame, but sometimes I would move into a close-up within that scene.
They couldn't embark upon any new ventures.
Being handheld or using the easy rig, it enabled me to make choices in a organic and fluid way. And the actors often didn't know who I was going to major on, really. It gave it a good kinetic energy to the story. We always wanted to be respectful to the periodness of the film, but we didn't want to be over-reverential to it. The way we shot it with the handheld camera, but in conjunction with these lenses, I think was a very good mix.
The first human handprint on a cave wall. We're part of something continuous.
Life is very fleeting. I've learnt that. Would you have dinner with me?
Yes.
It has moments you should seize.
When I was on location, on set, and looking at the skies that we were capturing, and we were doing a lot of compositions where we had the land at the bottom third or even fifth of the frame, and then everything else was sky. And I think I remember saying to Simon, you know, by the time when we get to HDR, we're going to be able to really, you know, work on this sky and bring out the very best in it. You know, we're on the DI anyway as well, but even more with the HDR. So that translation into HDR, I really enjoyed it actually. You know, it's still the film you've done, but you've just managed to sort of make the most out of those sky.
Still get that courtesy, no matter how many centuries they've lain.
Every film that I step onto, working with ARRI, it's a continuation of the conversation I had from the previous film I had with them. It's like, well, that chapter's over, let's move on to the next one. And what's happened before informs what your choices you're going to make here. So I'd looked at the 65 and the lenses for a film, and I sort of banked that information and then come to this. And you don't always have it, but on this film, I'd got a decent amount of prep time on it, and the support that I got from ARRI during that time of prep was invaluable, guiding me through what's possible with the DNA lenses and this camera. That helps you make more creative choices, I think, because you feel safe to do so.
Steer it steady, Mr. Brown. We're coming towards the edge of the atmosphere.
You say the word, and I'll dig.